And once again, heavyweight champion of the world, Big George Foreman.
With the recent passing of George Foreman, I figured it's as good a time as any to cover the episode that he appeared in. Plus, there's Luanne boxing and doing Tae Bo.
Tae Bo? Is that new Oriental way of moving your couch around?
Nuh-uh. It's an exercise class where you punch and you kick till you can't think of anything else no more. No, actually, you punch, kick, squat, rest, 2, 3, all to music and kiss.
Hey folks, welcome to Squirrel Tactics. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you haven't already. Check out our Patreon, merch store, sister channel, and we have ourselves another top tier patron. So Jason Brown, this one's for you.
All right. Someone's insane. Look out, someone's insane.
I got my eye on you, nutcase.
Alright, let's do this thing. Boxing Luanne. The title comes from the 1993 film Boxing Helena, and that's it as far as any connection between the two. Spoiler alert, the movie isn't about pugilism, nor does it contain any actual boxing. In fact, the boxing in the title refers to the main character amputating a woman who he's holding against her will's arms and legs, but then come to find out the whole thing was just a fantasy he was having. It wasn't good. It won the Razzie for Worst Director, but yeah, that's where the title comes from. Anywho, the episode starts with Luanne in math class solving an equation on the board without showing her work, I should add. And if she figured that out in just her head, then props to her. The problem here is that several guys in the class chose to obviously and clearly ogle her, even going so far as to make a comment about her rear end being a 10.
Y equals 7.
Your butt equals 10.
And none of this is okay. Well, Luanne doing math is fine, but the guys are damn near falling out of their desks to get a better view. Seriously, guys, that's creepy. I get that as guys we're sometimes instinctually attracted to look at certain things, but come on now. This is just ridiculous levels of disrespect. But at least this comes back around in the end, which we'll get to. Luanne is irritated, as she should be, and she gets this out of her system during her Tae Bo class. For those unaware, Tae Bo is a workout system created by Billy Blanks that mixed martial arts and fitness. Some of y'all might remember the commercials that ran all the time back in the day. You know, wedged in there between ads for Darren's Dance Grooves and Pure Moods.
It focuses on a man named Billy Blanks and his brilliant fitness creation called Tae Bo. Tae from the Korean word for foot and Bo for the word boxing.
Well, Luanne gets a little too into it and accidentally kicks the girl next to her, whose name is Angela, by the way, and she's voiced by Carmen Electra.
I once fell for a free breast examination in a bar.
It just makes me so
Now, Luanne has had just about enough of men objectifying her. That's totally understandable. She's out here trying to better herself, and she's got guys out here trying to take pictures of her in class. This ties into Hank talking to Bobby about the movie they're watching, which I guess is supposed to be Revenge of the Nerds because Bobby references nerds being bullied by jocks in college, and Hank explains how they have to stand up for themselves. We also get to see Luanne explain Tae Bo to Hank and Bobby, which piques Bobby's interest because of course it would.
Oh, it's dancing.
Huh, that sounds...
No.
Next, we're introduced to Buck's younger brother, Randy, voiced by Bruce Dern.
Yo, Rumsfeld! Awesome! Yeah!
And fun fact, Bruce's daughter Laura Dern actually voiced two characters on the show. First, the two-time ex of the Boomhauer family, Catherine Hester from Patch Boomhauer.
You know, I've been thinking about you a lot lately.
Oh, man, it ain't true, man.
Well, yeah. I mean, I am marrying your brother.
You? You married no Patch? You talking about my Patch?
I guess I'm gonna be Mrs. Boomhauer after all. I was actually on my way to the airport to pick him up. When you see him, could you act surprised? That's perfect.
And the woman who's credited as serving Winch in Joust Like a Woman.
Oh, this is not what nature intended for my implants.
Also, it should be noted that Bruce Dern himself was actually mentioned by Boomhauer in The Miseducation of Bobby Hill.
Hey, man, how about that dang old dude, man? True story, man. They got all them balloons up and down on the lawn chair, man. They go around 16,000 feet, man. That old Bruce Dern but played him in a dang old movie, man.
Anywho, we don't know much about Buck's history with Randy, but he doesn't seem all that happy to see his younger brother. He even tries to sneak out a window, and Randy lies about being from the Chamber of Commerce in order to gain an audience with Buck.
It's my little baby brother.
I want my money, Buck.
Apparently knowing full well that Buck was dodging him due to owing him some money, which Buck does agree to pay back once he's literally strong-armed into it.
All right, I'll pay. Donna, put a hold on them payroll checks. You putting the squeeze on me really takes me back.
Now I kind of want to know more about their childhood. Buck mentions that he knows a place for them to check out ladies with no cover charge. That place ended up being Body Buddy, the exact same gym that Luanne works out at. And speak of the devil, there she is, punching and kicking and thrusting up a storm, much to the Strickland boys' delight. Now, I don't think I need to point out Buck and his lack of respect and, well, decency when it comes to the opposite sex.
Marriage may not mean anything to you, but it means a lot to Patch and me and Buck and everyone else here.
Yeah, that bottom paper tray needs to be filled.
It's full.
Well, top it off.
I mean, seriously, do I need to bust out the Buck Strickland work mistress timeline? Buck uses people. It's what he does and how he got to where he is. Hence, using women is just another day for him. That being said, him literally licking his lips while watching a Tae Bo class is f***ing creepy. And kudos to Luanne here for sticking up for herself and calling Buck out.
What? Hey there, Luanne. Good workout? Yeah, it looked good from here.
If you were looking at me, I'm going to have both of your gym memberships revoked. And I would hate to do that because you both look terrible.
It should be mentioned that this episode is from season 7, meaning that it took place after Luanne learned to stand up to men harassing her back in season 3's John Vitti Presents Return to La Grunta.
Go ahead, run, because I'm through running away from you. From now on, I'm gonna dress any way I want, and you're just gonna have to deal with it.
I point this out because it's nice to see clear character progression on Luanne's part, as opposed to the regression of her character that we often see, especially in the later seasons.
And Peggy, I just ate a watermelon seed. Oh my God, what if it grows in the baby? I don't want a watermelon baby!
In fact, Luanne standing up for herself throws both men off, and that's saying something because Buck doesn't get thrown off that easily.
Do look me up, though, when you pass through New Orleans. I could show you things as well.
Yeah, let's go, old top. There ain't nothing more here to try. No, hell, this ain't gonna be good.
But Randy recovers, claiming that he's scouting boxing talent, and he tells Luanne he would love to see her in the ring, which Luanne is rather interested in right off the bat.
Huh? My mama's in prison because she fights so much. Do you think that there's some way her genes could have been passed down to me?
Yeah, her mama did have a bit of a violent streak in her.
We're engaged.
It was supposed to be a surprise!
Mark!
Pimply little!
And Luanne has shown to be more than willing to throw down when necessary.
Peggy, watch out!
So this is not much of a surprise, and apparently they're gonna call the fight Beauty and the Beast, with Luanne having an odd request as it pertains to her billing.
I'd like to be the Beast. There! Did I scare you?
She announces her plans to box Friday night in the back room of Sugarfoot's.
Sugarfoot's barbecue. So sweet, you could eat it with your feet.
Which does not aid in Hank viewing the fight as a legitimate boxing match. I mean, I get it. We're not exactly talking about Madison Square Garden here, though the food's probably better at Sugarfoot's. Plus, Buck being involved and him scouting her talent during a workout class, yeah, Hank ain't buying it. But Luanne has her mindset, and for an admirable reason.
And I am going to stand up and fight and be respected just like you said.
Luanne, the kind of women that box don't have 50 stuffed animals on their bed.
Though Hank is rather flippant about Luanne boxing, Peggy is fully on board, being a woman who had dealt with not being able to play the sport she wanted to play, probably playing a big part.
Can you run as well as you can hit?
Yes, sir, I sure can.
Yeah, then run over to the store then and get these boys some soda pop. That girl.
Everything he just told you, complete jackassery.
And I kinda agree with Peggy here. If it helps Luanne build confidence and learn to stand up for herself, cool. By all means, box at the barbecue joint away. Friday night comes along. Apparently, it's 2-for-1 rib night. That's actually a pretty good deal. You're telling me you can get 2-for-1 ribs and watch Luanne in a boxing match? Yeah, I'm sold. I gotta give it to Buck. He knows how to put the butts in the seats. Now, you may recognize Luanne's opponent as Greta, Randy's muscle and one-time hookup. And you may also recognize that refereeing the fight is Little John.
I'm Little John. I cut meat. Yo, Miss Peggy, a choo-choo's gone off the track. That's 6 times today that thing gone off the track that I know of.
Yeah, that guy. Not to be confused with other Little Johns.
Yeah! I can't swim! I'm drowning! I'm drowning!
The level of training that Luanne has received for this fight is Buck telling her to bounce up and down. And yeah, I wonder why he would tell her that. And as the fight gets underway, we see her accidentally fall back into her Tae Bo safe zone.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Watch the kicks or I'll disqualify you and you'll lose your free rib dinner.
You know, a free rib dinner ain't a bad payday for a fixed fight. Hell, he's half my age, but I'd box Jack Doherty for some Cabot cheese.
Boy, that cheese.
But because the fight was fixed, Luanne ended up winning, with her possibly being the most surprised person in the building, including Hank, who, yeah, is surprised and has arrived after finding out that Luanne went through with the fight from Bobby, who was listening to the fight over the phone. Hank congratulates her. She's offered a contract by Randy to keep boxing, and I want to point out a little thing here. Buck does get some level of revenge on Greta for her strong arming earlier by literally stepping on her as he entered the ring.
Oh yeah, you didn't think I could do it, but I did it.
Great job, Luanne.
Hank gets totally on board with Luanne's training, giving us the opportunity to see some bonding between the two, something that we sadly don't see nearly enough, even though the writers had several opportunities for them to have bonding moments, such as having Hank help Luanne rebuild his truck rather than spending an episode creating more crack addicts than the CIA.
So, Luanne, how's my truck?
Bad news, Uncle Hank. I had to order a new fuel pump. I figured it was urgent, so I asked him to upset.
Good thing I just got back from fishing, or that would bother me. It's kind of starting to bother me. Yep, I'm bothered. I better get on the lake.
Hank gives Luanne his boxing gloves from his time boxing at the which is really a sweet thing for him to do.
Luanne, I always hoped to give my old boxing gloves from the Y to Bobby, but, well, you know. Anyway, I'd be honored if you'd wear these in your next match.
Though, to be fair, Hank had previously given them to Bobby.
Here, they're my old YMCA gloves.
And this was the outcome.
You left yourself open, Dad.
You may also have noticed that Hank's old gloves interestingly changed colors between seasons, but whatever, Luanne accepts them in a very Luanne way.
Oh, Uncle Hank, every time I punch someone in the face, I'll think of you.
And thus we embark on the adventure that was Luanne Platter's boxing career, with her facing Croatian sled dog puller Bora, also known as the Slammin' Slavic, also known as Buck's maid, who's cheaper to pay to throw a fight than an actual fighter.
Hey, Bora, you take a punch for $100, wouldn't you?
No, sir.
200?
Yes, sir, I would.
So I don't know why I never caught this before, happens to all of us, but I never put together Buck giving Luanne tassels to wear, with Hank and Luanne being so naive that they use them but don't put them where Buck had intended, meaning Buck had intended for her to fight more or less topless. Guess I never really thought that one through. But Luanne wins the fight, Bora passes go and collects her $200, and Luanne goes on to defeat a few more fighters. One's apparently a librarian, and one of whom Buck just comes across while while she's delivering mail. And Hank eventually broaches the subject of facing better competition, going so far as to mention a fight against Frida Foreman. Though Buck and Randy are against the idea because all of Luanne's have been fake up to that point, and they don't want to derail that gravy train.
Yep, they're ducking us. But don't worry, we'll line up another top-notch opponent. Has the pretzel lady gotten back to us yet?
So, Frida George Foreman, yes, her middle name is George, whose boxing career lasted from June of 2000 to November of 2001, during which she posted a 5-1 record, and it should be noted that this episode came out in early 2003, so Frida had been retired for over a year at that point. Also, she got into boxing during the whole daughters of famous boxers get into boxing era, where the daughters of greats like Ali and Frazier and Duran made short forays into pro boxing. All of them skipping fighting as amateurs and none of them doing that well against professional level boxers. And I'm not trying to speak ill of the dead here, but in real life, Luanne actually had a pretty good shot at beating Frida Foreman. Luanne also wasn't too far off from the level of competition that Frida actually fought. Anywho, Luanne shows up at the Hill House wearing the new outfit that Buck got her to help her create an image. In this case, a boxing French maid, which Hank is not happy about. And he mentions that Buck had tried to get her to wear a thong, apparently.
Dang it, I thought I made myself clear when I told him no boxing thong.
That would have been an interesting thing to try to pull off, and Hank goes off to have a talk with Buck while Peggy steps in to help Luanne pick a fight with Frida Foreman. Problem is, Hank figures out that the fights have been rigged after he recognizes Buck's maid.
Wait a minute, you're supposed to be the slamming Slavic, but you're just Buck's maid.
Buck's maid? All right, you caught me with my pants down.
By that point, Peggy and Luanne are already off picking a fight by trash-talking Frida, who is voiced by the actual Frida Foreman, rest in peace, while she was training, which doesn't work at first because who the hell are these random women yelling at her while she's sparring, but eventually she gets tired of it and accepts the challenge. I do really love how she refers to Peggy as grandma hair, by the way. That was just great.
All right, you want to fight? You gotta fight. And when I get done whipping up on her, I'm gonna come looking for you.
What'd I do?
Hank gets home ready to tell Luanne the truth, however he arrives to an excited Luanne telling him that she has been successful in her quest to get a fight against Frida. Hank is horrified and informs Peggy about the true nature of Luanne's fights up to that point, with them both agreeing that going forward with the fight is a terrible idea. Though, surprise, Peggy doesn't want to tell Luanne the real reason she shouldn't fight Frida.
Well, maybe she'll get food poisoning. You gave it to me that one time, you could do it again.
Excuse me for making chicken tartare.
For those unaware, steak tartare is basically raw ground meat. I'm aware of it due to the Mr. Bean episode where he accidentally ordered it. And we can gather that if steak tartare is raw ground meat, then chicken tartare is a horrible idea. Yeah, that's just raw chicken, and eating raw chicken is how you get salmonella. Though I am glad they stuck with the whole Peggy can't cook shtick.
You know, if I hadn't hurt my back that day, I would have known she couldn't cook. And then I would have been forced to not marry this little gal.
While talking with the guys about how to get Luanne out of the fight, Boomhauer comes up with the idea of just talking with her dad, Big George Foreman, which Hank thinks is a great idea.
Man, I tell you what, you know, talking about them dang oldest champion world, man, done 2 times wearing that old crown, man. About talking about that old grease, talking about it on 5 pounds since I got another lost no little thing, man.
So Hank goes off to meet with the late great George Foreman, who voiced himself, and for those unaware of who he was, Big George Foreman, 1968 Olympic gold medalist, career boxing record of 76-5, a 2-time heavyweight boxing champion. The first title win was in 1973, with that reign ending in a loss to Muhammad Ali in the Rumble in the Jungle in 1974, and his second title win was in 1994 at the age of 45, making him the oldest heavyweight boxing champion in history. 1994 was also the year that this thing called the George Foreman Lean Mean Fat Reducing Grilling Machine, or George Foreman Grill for short, was introduced. And yeah, I'm pretty sure almost every household had a George Foreman grill. Those things are amazing, especially for people with not a lot of space.
King of the Grill, George Foreman.
My lean, mean, fat-reducing grilling machine with built-in bun warmer delivers great-tasting grilled food in minutes. Best of all, it knocks out the fat.
He was a native Texan, having been born in Marshall. He had 12 children, which included 5 boys, all of whom were in fact named George. He was known to be a devout family man and minister and just about all-around good guy. And as such, Hank doesn't have a hard time talking with him, and George agrees to get the fight called off when he learns of the skill disparity between the two, and he respects Hank for trying to look out for his family.
So you'll cancel the fight, champ?
You got it.
Thank you. You're acting just like I'd expect a gold medalist to.
So yeah, problem solved. George gets where Hank is coming from, they part as friends, the fight gets canceled, and Luanne doesn't have to find out that the whole boxing fiasco was just a sham. Yep, it all worked out as planned.
Novelty grill? I've been hit below the belt before, but nothing like this.
I think it's a great product for dieters or little girls who want to play barbecue, but you can't compare it to a propane-powered grill.
Fight's on!
What? No.
I said fight's on.
Except no, it didn't work out that way, because of course it didn't work out that way. Hank had it all squared away until he decided to start belittling the George Foreman grill, calling it a novelty grill meant for children, infinitely inferior to anything powered by propane. And I love how George goes after propane here, claiming that breathing too much of it can cause brain damage, which, let's be honest, it probably would, though Hank has an explanation for all those studies.
What's the matter? Smelling all that propane cause your brain damage? That's what it does, you know.
No, that is not accurate. Those studies were all done on sick monkeys. And at least my grill isn't sold in housewares.
So at this point, Hank and Peggy are out of options other than telling Luanne the truth, and we know that Hank will jump through some fiery hoops to keep from telling Luanne the truth when he knows it's going to hurt her.
Oil is very important to America.
Even more important than propane?
Yes, Luanne. Oil is even more important than propane.
However, Hank's first attempt doesn't go too well considering, we're dealing with Luanne here.
Luanne, those fights you had were fixed.
The fighters were fixed? Like my puppy?
He explains how Buck set all the fights up for her because he knew men would watch her due to her looks, which Luanne sadly slowly understands. And of course she feels terrible about, but when offered the choices of either dropping out of the fight or taking a dive so that she still got paid, Luanne went ahead and chose option 3, which is to go through with the fight and to do her best.
That's cheating. And I got too much self-respect for that, even if every guy in the world thinks I'm a bimbo. Guys suck.
Yeah, unfortunately sometimes they do. That door swings both ways, by the way, but yeah, Bobby's not wrong. And it's very commendable of Luanne to go into a fight knowing full well that she's not going to fare very well. Let's be honest here, she knows full well she's about to get beat like a government mule. But she ain't backing down, showing us yet again that even though she came from a terrible background, she was not her upbringing, and that sometimes flowers do grow out of shit. Luanne is still apparently on the fence about taking a dive, and she gets some not so great advice from Angela, remember her? Who absolutely would have an OnlyFans if this was set in the modern day, and whose idea of dealing with men is to use her body to milk as much money from as many men as possible.
So you'd do anything for money?
Or a car.
So, if you were me, would you take a dive against Frida Foreman for $1,500?
Or a car.
And at that point, it looked like Luanne might go through with the dive. She even agrees to do so when she arrives at the fight and has a talk with Buck, with him informing her that there's a bachelor party ringside and doesn't seem all that trustworthy when it comes to whether or not a $1,500 check is going to go through or not.
Okay, I'm ready to take my dive now. You promised the check will clear, right?
Yeah, eventually. Now, don't get hit. You're fighting my aunt next week.
The fight starts, and at first it seems like Luanne is going through with her plan, dodging several punches and eventually getting knocked down. However, as she was down on the canvas, she noted the bachelor party guys throwing dollars at her, which, seriously, do not do this. These are competitive athletes who deserve to be treated as such. There are places for throwing money at women. A boxing ring is not one of them. We do get some fun lines from George Foreman, though, who spends part of his time there pitching his grills.
So you can see my grill is perfect for a big man like yourself.
I've told you 6 times. I'm not interested.
If I could take a punch like that, I might have been able to think of a name besides George for all my sons.
Luanne changes her mind and gets up, not throwing the fight, and instead giving it her all, losing in 3 rounds, but winning overall, in that she stuck to her principles and fought the good fight. This also leads to her gaining the respect of those same college guys from earlier, told you to come back around, who instead of wanting a picture of her, now they want a picture with her. And yeah, she gained their respect.
I saw your fight. You lasted 3 rounds with Frida Foreman. You are one tough chick.
Thank you. That's all I ever wanted to hear.
And that's the end of the episode, which in my opinion is a good one. It shows how many women deal with being disrespected, being objectified, and being looked at as nothing more than a walking set of boobs. Some men out there sadly are predatory towards women like Luanne, be it in a disrespectful but harmless meaning way like the college guys, or the blatant wear a thong and nipple tassels while boxing in order to make some quick money way that we see with Buck. And to be fair, we also see that some women can also be predatory towards men, like with Angela, who's willing to do whatever to whoever if it gets her what she wants and she doesn't care about any possible consequences. And we see that even though Luanne is surrounded by terrible influences, her family keeps her grounded and on the right track, as in the end she does the right thing and makes the people that matter proud. This was a good episode to show Luanne's progress. Granted, this wasn't always the case, but it's also great that we get to see some Hank Luanne bonding time, something the show was greatly lacking overall. A good message, some classic lines, the ability to showcase someone like George Foreman, and taking on an issue like what women have to deal with way too often. This episode gets overlooked a lot of times for how good it actually is, though I gotta admit, part of me wonders whatever happened to that maid outfit.
You need to practice, so get out of that stupid outfit. And for God's sake, don't leave it where Bobby can find it.
Thanks for watching, folks. We'll see y'all next time.
Women boxing, huh? If they wear gloves, how do they scratch each other?
No, Bill, they punch pretty hard. And Luanne was really something. I tell you what, Dale fights more like a girl than she did last night.
So I bid a cashier. I'm a street fighter.